The plan for the ports of entry, are people obliged to report at the ports? Yes. We are saying people must come legally. When you report at the port of entry, they fingerprint you, they may even photograph you, they take your details, and we know that we have entered the country. The people who ask us questions every time will stop asking us questions because we'll have the details of who is in or out. If you just jump the border illegally and come here, it's wrong. But it's not that we are saying those who are running away from their countries, they can't jump. But the law provides for that. Only that we want to correct the manner in which it states it. If you cross a border at the point that is not a port of entry, you must immediately report to the nearest refugee reception center. And there are 5 of them in the country. We've got one in Musina. We've got the biggest one here in Marabastad in Tshwane, called the Desmond Tutu Refugee Reception Center. We've got one in Gqeberha, and we've just opened a state-of-the-art building in Epping, in Cape Town, for that refugee reception center. It is really a state-of-the-art if you go and visit it. We've got one in Gqeberha, and we've got one in Tekwini. But many people cross the border illegally, and they don't report there. And I'm sure you are aware, despite the fact that South Africa is always under attack on refugee legislation, we are the only country, unless one can point to another, at least on the continent, where we don't put people in camps. We are not encamping people. They stay around us. And so it's easy to disappear into the population. Whereas in other countries, they throw you into a refugee camp, and they know that you are there, and you can't leave without permission. We don't do that in South Africa. Even though I know we don't earn kudos for that, we actually earn scorn for doing something like that, which we believe is so good and human. The labor migration policy, whether it will differentiate between SADC and other countries, I think it will be difficult to answer this question until the document is out. Because as I said, Minister Nqesi did get experts even internationally who will look at this. Remember, South Africa does have certain agreements with SADC on these issues. And so they will have to be incorporated in that document. And standing here, I'm not even actually able to state exactly what is there. Just wait until the document is out. Because it will go to Parliament, which will do public hearings, by the way. There will be ample opportunity. The new law, how will it affect change? And the example of Spasa Shaw beer was given and all that. I think if you read the white paper and the statement I've made, you realize that there will be lots and lots of serious changes, including the manner in which we interact with refugees and asylum seekers, including the people who are going to interview them and find whether they are telling the truth or not. And maybe I need to explain for those who might not know what I mean by that. I told you of the 3 international conventions and the 3 pieces of legislation in the country. When you come, the conventions provide for under what conditions do you skip the border illegally and go to another country. Maybe it also answers the question from Carol Payton about what happens when people jump borders. The United Nations clearly outlines that in the 1951 convention. It says when there is war in your country, you can do that. And if you are crossing into a country that is a signatory to a convention like we are, it ought to allow you in. It also says if there are natural disasters like floods, fires, volcanoes, earthquakes, you can cross the border anywhere without any papers, because that is provided for. But provided you go and announce your presence. The problem is to arrive in another country and never even mention that I'm here. The third thing is if you are persecuted, and I think that may be the main one, persecution. And 4 areas of persecution are recognized under the United Nations Conventions. The first one is if you are persecuted for political activities and for your political beliefs and activities. Secondly, if you are persecuted for your traditional beliefs and activities, which the rulers of that country may say they don't want. Thirdly, if you are persecuted for your religious beliefs and teaching and activities, which the rulers in that country say we don't like what you are teaching, we don't like the religion you are propagating, it's bad for the country, they may persecute you. And lastly, if you are persecuted for sexual orientation, you know this is a subject of intense discussion around the continent now. The issue of sexual orientation. Now, the RSDO, or Refugee Status Determination Officer, in these 5 reception centers, their job is to determine the truthfulness of that. Is there a war in your country? Is there a natural disaster? Are you really being persecuted? And there will be 2 outcomes. There will be 2 outcomes, or maybe, let me say 3. Because the third one is if you are granted. But the other 2 outcomes is if they say, no, we're not granting you because your claim is unfounded. But they may also say your claim is manifestly unfounded. There's a difference between the 2. Manifestly unfounded means what you are saying does not exist. It's fiction. You can't tell us there's war in that country. There's no war, we know. It has never been reported anywhere. That's fiction. So it means your claim is manifestly unfounded, and you appeal to a committee called SCRA, the Standing Committee on Refugee Affairs. If, on the other hand, your finding is just unfounded, unfounded means different from manifestly unfounded. It means that which you are claiming is happening in that country, yes, but it does not affect you. You are just making use of it to escape your country and come into and go to another country. That which you are claiming is happening, it does not affect you at all. If there is war in the DRC and you come from, what's the capital? Kinshasa. You come from Kinshasa and the war is far in the east, 1,000 kilometers away. What do you mean? The same thing happened here when people rushed into the Central Methodist Church wishing to go to Canada. Their claim was that there are xenophobic attacks. You can check throughout that period. There was not a single xenophobic attack in Cape Town. What they were referring to is what happened here in 2008 in Gauteng, more than 1,000 kilometers away. So that is unfounded. Now, that's how the appeal process will go. So our new law will take into consideration that people like RSDOs have to be people who understand interpretation of statutes, people who understand international law, people who can integrate between these international law and conventions. And believe you me, they are complex. I've attached as annexures in this white paper the protocol, the convention, the protocol, and the AEU convention. I've attached them there for your reference, and go and read them. You'll agree with me just how complex is that. You get headaches all the time, but because international law has to accommodate as many countries' wishes as possible. And that's why it goes round and round and round. If Christians will allow me, it's like a Bible. I can read a verse in the Bible that says you must be punished, and I can read another verse that says no, you can't be punished. And to get through that, many scholars of religion will know there have been arguments throughout centuries. So international law is more or less like that. It needs people who are very, very highly qualified. That's why we are making proposals like they were made in the UK and Canada about the level of qualification and experience of such people and their professional status in society. Thank you very much.